are actually up to. You know, most traders, they pull up a standard price chart and think, okay, this is it. This is all the information I need. But what if I told you those familiar patterns, those candles you've been staring at, are only showing you half the picture? And maybe, just maybe, they're leaving out the most important part.
Get this, it takes your brain up to half a second just to see a price change on the screen and decide what to do. In the time it takes you to blink, trading algorithms have already placed and executed thousands of orders. So by the time you see a big move happening, the smart money is already in position. This isn't just a small speed advantage, it means you're fundamentally playing a different and much slower game.
So here's what we're going to cover in this explainer. First, we'll talk about why just looking at candles can be misleading. Then, we'll uncover the invisible market where the real game is played. After that, we'll look at the tools you need to see what's happening there. We'll walk through a real-world example, and finally, we'll wrap it all up with a whole new way of looking at the market, shifting from just reacting to actually reading it.
All right, let's jump right into part one and break down why the way most people trade is, well, kind of set up for failure from the start.
The source material kicks off with a pretty brutal statistic. A staggering 96% of traders don't make money. And it's not because they aren't intelligent people. It's because they're focused on the wrong thing. They're chasing the effects, the candles, instead of understanding the cause.
And this right here is the core of the issue. A big green candle just tells you the outcome of a battle. It doesn't show you the battle itself. Relying only on price is like trying to understand a football game by only looking at the scoreboard at the end. You see who won, sure, but you have no idea about the key plays, the momentum shifts, or the strategies that actually decided the game.
So if the price chart is just the scoreboard, where is the actual game being played? Well, it's time to pull back the curtain and look at this invisible market.
Now, this is the market we all know, right? The cash market. You buy some shares of a company, you sell some shares. It's direct, it's straightforward, but it's not where the real power is.
And here's where things get really interesting. The scale of this other invisible market isn't just a little bigger. It's absolutely massive. It changes everything.
That's right. For every $1 being traded in the cash market that everyone watches, there are $10 being traded in the derivatives market. That's options and futures. That's where the big institutions are really operating. Their activity in this gigantic arena is what creates the waves that eventually crash on the shore of the cash market. It truly is a game within a game, and most retail traders are completely blind to it.
So how in the world do you see this invisible market? Well, you can't use standard charts. You need a specialized toolkit, the kind the pros use.
The first tool is called Market Profile. The best way to think of it is like an MRI for the market. Instead of just showing you a single price point, it shows you where the market has spent the most time and traded the most volume. It reveals the market's skeleton, the key structural levels where institutions have been buying and selling.
Now, if Market Profile is the MRI showing you the structure, then Orderflow is the live EKG, showing you the market's heartbeat, tick by tick. It doesn't just tell you the price moved up, it shows you why it moved up. You can literally see how many aggressive buy orders hit the market versus sell orders at every single price. It's the live, unfiltered battle between buyers and sellers.
So here's the most important part. There's no single magic tool. It's about how they work together. Market Profile gives you the map of the important territory. Orderflow then tells you who's winning the fight at those key locations on the map. You combine them, and suddenly you have a clear, cohesive view of what the big institutions are likely doing.
Okay, theory is one thing, but let's see how this all comes together in a real trading day. We're going to retell the day's story, not with candles, but with these much deeper insights.
So the day starts out looking great for buyers. The market opens strong. But if you're watching the data, you can see them struggling to really push prices higher. Then comes the key moment. At the very peak of the day, the order flow data shows something shocking, literally zeros on the buy side. Aggressive buyers had just vanished.
Good evening, guys. Good evening, everyone. A quick sound check. Am I audible? Great. So let's start this Monday 5 p.m. session with a look at the structure, and then we'll move on to the latest update we have on the Vtrender charts, which is the MFLOW 2.0 version. So a quick look at the weekly report, which is up on the website. And a quick before that, I would want to bring your attention to a very important section which we have on the website, which is the must read section. So whenever we have any tool which is updated, whenever there is something which we cover on any topic, it is put up in this must read section. So make sure you go through this and you will have information about each and every tool what we have, what we use in on Vtrender charts. So coming back to the weekly report, what we did last week in Nifty futures was form a normal variation weekly profile to the downside. This was similar to what we did in the week prior. And if we see the weekly chart, you can see how we remained inside this previous week's range. And we formed a balanced profile. So you can say it is like the last 2 weeks, Nifty is formed a balance, and you can see where the POC is. You have an overlapping POC at this 25880 level, which is now also the POC of December, the monthly POC. So this becomes an important reference on weekly time frame. We look at this as the bias for the coming week to be bullish or bearish. And what we saw on Friday was a buying tail right at that 25880. So we already had started an imbalance to unfold on Friday. The first part of the week was trending lower. We opened on Monday with forming value higher, but we hit this HVN and we were not able to take off that 26130 selling tail. And we went on to get sellers. How we know we got sellers? By these initiative selling tails. We got back into this weekly value. We completed the 80% rule. You can see how we stalled right at the lower end of this weekly value. And this is where we left a initiative buying tail. So last Monday was a normal variation profile, but we could not take off an important reference. Then we got initiative selling tails. So we knew the seller was in control. And then when we made these new lows, almost hitting the objective of the value area low, we found an initiative buying tail. Yes, this initiative buying tail didn't come in the A period, it came in the B. But nonetheless, it was formed in the initial balance. A period is supposed to be the most important, but after that, B will also give you the same cue which the A period gives if you're leaving a tail behind. So this was the first advent of buyers coming back into the auction. They gave us this bounce back, almost tagging this VPOC of 26016 on Friday. So we formed a normal day, but we had a very important buying tail right at this 2-week overlapping POC, which is also the December POC as I mentioned. So going forward, we were bullish for as we started this week. Why? Because I mentioned more importantly, it has given a move away from the 2-week overlapping POC. So this imbalance could continue at the start of the next week. And that is why we had these references in spot and we opened higher today. We took off this today VPOC of 26022 and you can see how we left a buying tail today in spot right at this rollover point. And then we went on to tag this extension handle and got about this 26145 and we narrowly missed hitting this final objective of today, which was 26189. I think we made a high of 26179 today or 183. I'm not very sure, but we almost hit this. And the close was almost at around the highs. 26172 is the close today. So what we have done today again is left an A period buying tail and formed higher value. So as long as the buying tail holds and we are above this reference at open tomorrow, we'll continue to be bullish for tomorrow's settlement. I'll come to the range and the levels which we are watching for after we complete the futures bit. and that is how we are placed in spot. And in Bank Nifty again, we saw a similar thing happening. Last Monday, we made an attempt to probe above this value, but we left similar highs and we saw the POC shift to the top. This was an not an ideal, but it was still a double distribution kind of a profile, where the lower distribution was a bigger one, the upper one was a very small one, and we got an extension in the F period. So why it was not looking good was because we left similar highs, and this was telling us it is getting exhausted near this initiative selling tail of previous week. And just like how we saw in Nifty, we saw initiative sellers enter the auction and they brought it lower. They even broke below this value area low, and we went on to repair these poor lows of Bank Nifty. And then when we repaired that, we saw a small buying tail. So when you're seeing initiative tails in the first hour, you know that the bias for that day is in that direction. So that is why we are looking for downside on Tuesday and Wednesday. But on Thursday, when we left a tail at the lows, we knew that the buyers were back. So what we did was we closed Bank Nifty with a nice 3-day balance. In fact, you could take all these 4 days as a balance profile because we had this selling tail and a 4-day balance. So it was looking good for a move away from that balance. The balance seems to be have completed, and we could expect a move away from that. So that those were the hypos for today. And that was the basis of us forming a bullish bias for Bank Nifty also, because on Friday we saw a very narrow 243 point range, and the weekly profile was representing a composite B shape with this as the value. So we had a prominent POC and we were closing right at the prominent POC. 59069 was the close on Friday. So we were expecting a move away from this. So that was our first bullish hypo. We opened higher in Bank Nifty also, and we never tagged this. And you can see I have not mentioned the rollover point in Bank Nifty, but we are all aware about the rollover point because we cover it as soon as the new series starts. 59150 was the rollover point. And if you see the lows in spot today was right at that rollover point. 59155 was the low. So what we have done, we have moved away from this POC. We have in fact gone above this value also. And that is the reason we were looking for upside. But what we saw was after hitting this extension handle of the double distribution profile of last Monday, it could not sustain. So we stalled here and we have formed a normal day. But yes, the value is completely higher. So Bank Nifty is also made a bullish start to the week, but it will need to get some more initiative buying in the coming sessions. So this is as far as the spot is concerned. Let's now have a quick look at the futures daily report and what we were looking for before the market open today. So you can see what the open type was on Friday. It was an open rejection reverse. We had more than double the average volumes of the first 15 minutes. And that is the reason the opening low held in spite of the dip which we saw in the F period on Friday. So when you have a strong open confirmed by volumes and an A period buying tail, it needs more supply to be able to break that. But what happened? The buyers were not able to add up at the IBH. I'll open up the order flow chart in a bit and we'll see that. So that is the reason we got that dip. But the opening buyers who had entered the auction, they held. And that is the reason they went on to form higher value. And when we come to the MFLOW chart, we will see how the long started to accumulate one day before Friday, which was on Thursday close. We saw the good green blocks in the MFLOW, and that is the reason we opened with a higher gap up, and then again that green block continued. So I'll come to that when we open up the MFLOW chart. But coming back to the daily report, what we were looking for today in Nifty futures was a move higher, continuous. So looks set to continue higher in the coming session towards the series VWAP. This was our first reference, 26124, and this was our second reference, 26178. the major immediate objective, and this 26257 is our higher objective on the upside. So what did we do today? We opened well above this value and we left a buying tail. We also got into this 2-day composite. We took out this series VWAP. So the low today, when we come to the order flow, we'll see that the low was right above this series VWAP. And that is the reason we are able to take this out, and we almost went on to tag this, but we were not able to get a good range extension, just like what happened on Friday. But still the opening buyers held the entire day's downside. So that is why we have formed another normal day, a balanced profile and with higher value. So we continue to remain bullish, and we'll take the new references as per today's profile. So even in Bank Nifty, we formed an inside bar on Friday. So we already saw in spot how it gave us a nice 4-day composite. And in Nifty, Bank Nifty futures, we saw how we formed a 3-day composite, and we closed right at the POC of 59230. And you can see how we moved away from this value area high. And what we did today was form value in this selling tail. So initiative tails are important zones, whether they are held by buyers or sellers. So that is the reason when we are approaching a previous seller zone, the auction may spend some time absorbing all the supply which is there. So that should be taken as a bullish sign, because what happened previously was we saw rejection here. We got a fast move from this because the seller just drove it down. But today we were forming value. We got accepted in this zone. So that itself is a good sign. And what we did on the daily time frame is form higher value. We have moved away from this 3-day value. So that is the reason we are looking for more upside. And you can see how the series VWAP of Bank Nifty is right there, which we would want to take out, just like the way we did in Nifty futures today. So this was about the Bank Nifty futures. Coming to the Nifty futures profile chart, and we'll have a look at the order flow before we move on to the MFLOW. So this is what I was talking about, how when you are getting initiative selling tails, you know that the PLR is to the downside. And once I'll just unmerge this profile, because what we already discussed in spot, we can see the same thing happened in futures also. So this was marked by sellers at the open, and this saw buyers coming in the B period, and they held. And here on this day, on 18th of December, we'll see how the MFLOW was showing us greens, and that is why we opened higher. And this was what I discussed, was an open rejection reverse chart, and we went on to hold this open. And the low which we made in the F period was right where the December POC in Nifty futures is. 25960 is the December POC. Just like in spot, it is 25880. You saw support coming at the December POC in futures. And that is the reason forming value above this POC meant we are looking for more upside. And yes, the series VWAP was our first reference along with the rollover point. So this turquoise line over here, this is the rollover point, and this is our series VWAP. And you can see how today's open was right at the series VWAP. So, but what did we do? The buyers came in at the open and they held the series VWAP, and we even got a initiative buying tail. But once again, just like what we saw on Friday, the buyers were not adding up at the initial balance high to give us our next setup to go long. So we saw buying right at the series VWAP. This became the support, but we could not get buyers at this initial balance high. And this is why we were not able to get, because this is hitting this supply zone from 8th of December, which was a trend day down. This was totally dominated by sellers, and we have had some good references over here. This 25156 was an important extension handle in the VWAP of this day. That is why we stalled right there in the previous week, 15th of December. And from there we made this fresh move lower. And today what we did, we have left a buying tail at that reference. And because we have formed higher value, we are looking for more upside. But yes, we will have to sustain above today's value at open tomorrow. So this is about the futures market profile chart. Let us have a quick look at the order flow, and then we will move on to the MFLOW to dissect what the MFLOW was showing us from last Thursday. So I'll quickly go through the 15-minute order flow just to confirm on the open type which we had on Friday. So you can see 13,000 contracts in the first 15 minutes, and you can see zeros right at that December POC which we were talking about. So we opened, we made a probe lower, we got rejected in the entry into this previous day's range. We had an A period buying tail. If I split this chart, you can very clearly see how we had this A period buying tail in the previous day's entry. So this got rejected. That is why we are looking for more upside. But what happened on the upside, we made marginal range extension. The sellers were not adding up. So that is the reason we got this dip. The D made a marginal new high, and we were getting stalled right at this initiative selling tail of 16th. So that is the reason we made this dip lower, because buyers were not adding here. And in the dip lower, what happened? The buyers came back strongly to defend 25960, which is the monthly POC. And you can see how you're getting zeros on the sell side, and you got the RB, the POC shifting to the lows. So this is telling you that the buyers are defending this, and immediately on the 15-minute we got an IB signal and we got back above VWAP. So this was validating the series POC. But yes, buyers had more work to do. They had to take off the rollover point and this series VWAP, which they did in form of a gap up today. And if I take you to today's opening order flow, we saw a similar kind of bar which we saw on Friday. You can see how we have got zeros at the lower top. We have a good green bar, and we have stalled this. We have made a low right at the series VWAP. So, and we have got 12,000 contracts, slightly less than what we saw on Friday, but nonetheless, it was almost double the average volume, not double, but at least 1.8 times. So this was telling us that the buyer continued to hold, and this POC was our reference support on downside. And what we saw again today was the buyers came in at the open near the series VWAP, but they were not adding up the initial balance high. And that is the reason today again we could not get a meaningful range extension. And you can see how we have made these marginal highs, and we have left similar highs in K and L. F also we made an attempt to go higher, but we were stalling. But at no point of time we got below this B period low. So that means the buying tail was defended. And that means the buyer who have entered have now shifted their base to this buying tail. Friday the base was at 25,960, but now it is the series VWAP and this buying tail. So as long as this is holding, we'll continue to be bullish for tomorrow's settlement. But yes, we will have to take off, repair these poor highs and stay above this value area high of today for an upside towards this unvisited VPOC of 26,330. So this is as far as the futures and order flow is concerned. Coming now to the MFLOW chart. So what is the new addition which we have made in MFLOW? It has become much easier to interpret what is the business which is coming, because we want to differentiate between old business and new business. And even in new business, we want to know whether it is new buying or new selling. And if it is old business, why is the old business happening? Whether it is shorts who are got stuck, who are forced to exit, or whether it is longs who are liquidating, booking profits, or whether it is longs booking in loss. They've been forced to cover. So that is why we have these new uh, style in the MFLOW indicator. So the rules are very simple. Green stands for bullish, being bullish. Red stands for being bearish. And if you are seeing gray bars, they are stay away bars. They are telling you it is more of noise. So what you would want to see, I have the 3-minute chart of MFLOW today, and I'll just quickly go through that. So you can see how at the open you have bold green bars. So this is new longs which are entering, and this tells you that and you can see even the volumes were the highest at the open, and then we have been depreciating. So this opening bar has got good initiative buy side volumes. And where is the POC of that open, which is where we saw in the order flow also. So that becomes your base, because now you can see good fresh intent by the buyers. So solid green bar means fresh longs are adding. So you, with the solid green bar, if you're getting a strong open or you're getting an IB3 signal in the order flow, that will give you a good trade setup. You know that this is where the buyers are getting in. And after that, you can see how we had more of gray bars. You had some red which tried to come in, but then it became hollow bars. And what does it depict? Let me just go through them. Solid means new business. Solid green means you are getting new buying. Solid red means you're getting new fresh selling. And if you are getting hollow bars like these, green hollow bars are again bullish, but they are telling you old business. Why old business? They are telling you that these shorts are being forced to cover. So hollow, and same thing with the hollow red. Hollow red is also old business. That means the longs are being forced to come out. So solid is new business. Solid red is new business for bearish, being bearish. Solid green is new business for being bullish. Hollow inverted green is also bearish. Hollow red, inverted red is also bearish. So we have inverted green bar as the third layer, and we also have bars which come above the volume. So inverted bars are the bars which are coming in the bottom pane. These are your inverted bars. So they are telling you old business is covering. And what you get, bold blocks of green or red, are telling you new business is coming. So this is what you need to identify. And this, when you're getting in sync with the other setups and the order flow signals, you will get more favorable uh, trades, and you will know when you are trading with the new business and when you are trading uh, when the old business is booking profits. So when you are getting into a trade, when a new business is entering, you know that that is a trade which you can keep for a longer time. But if you are entering a trade and you're seeing that move is happening because of old business coming out, you know that the trade may not last long. So you may need to be happy with smaller points. So it is very important to understand how the move is being built, whether it is new position which is building and then giving you the move, or whether the move is happening because of old business getting stuck and being forced to exit. So this way, if if you have the understanding of this, you will be better placed to hold on to trades which are in sync with new positions building and the order flow also confirming. So if you're getting green bars in the M flow and you're getting IB signals in the order flow, there is no reason you would want to book profits, or there is no reason you want to come out of all your positions. You would want to hold on to some part because you know that the trend is a strong one. Same thing if the move comes on short covering, you know that it may not last long. So it is better you bring in the money as soon as possible and bring the stop loss to cost. And the gray, although it displays noise, it tells us when we need to be away in the market. So it will test our patience and it'll tell us that you will need to wait out that phase and then look to re-enter when the MFLOW is giving us new business, confirmation of new business entering. So I'll just take you back to Thursday's close. So Thursday we saw this IS3 signal and we got this move below VWAP. And into the close, you can see how these solid green bars started coming. So you can see how this IS was a good one and it gave us the objectives. But into the close, you can see more green blocks. Hardly any red. There is one small red. Otherwise, most of them are green. So you can see how new business, new greens are accumulating over here. This was that accumulation phase which Jim Dalton has spoken about, what we call as the IPM, initial price movement. So this was accumulation, and that is the reason we got this gap up on Friday. And you can see again the volumes were highest at the open, and this dip held on that 25960. So you can see here again in this dip, you can see more of greens. Yes, you have reds also, but if you take the overall context and see what is more prevalent, it is the green, solid green bars which are more in sync. And because you are taking support, you know that this December POC is being held and you get an IB signal after these greens show up in the MFLOW. You know that the PLR is to the upside. This is a support zone and we'll need some fresh buying to come in over here. So this was again held by buyers and we closed above VWAP. And today again, I already showed you that how at the open we had these greens. So even after the open, the greens added. And that is the reason we saw those two big reds just right. One was right at the lows of 26130 and one was slightly away where we had that POC of 26148. So what was that showing us? All the supply was being overwhelmed by this fresh MFLOW green. So that is the reason these greens held on to the gains all day and they kept the auction above VWAP. So this is how you can identify where fresh buying is happening and if order flow is in sync with that. And this will be very useful also in the options, especially nearing settlement, nearing expiry, because it will tell us real time, tick wise, where there is covering, where there is fresh selling happening in options, where there is buying coming in options, and where there is short covering happening in options. And that will open up a wide range of setups which we will be able to trade, because we'll get more clarity because of this MFLOW and we will know when we need to trade in sync with the new business. And also the best time frame to follow this MFLOW, because MFLOW is the big players are not someone who will trade for 3 minutes. So the best time frame to follow the MFLOW would be the 30-minute chart. And in the 30-minute chart, you check for when the MFLOW is in sync with the signals and the structure of the market. So you can see how from the 18th, this is the 30-minute, and you can see how from 18th, where we made that swing low, you don't have one single red block. This is that probe which we were talking about, where we saw the IS signal at VWAP, and then we probe lower. I'll just increase the size of this so that it so this is the last time where we saw fresh sellers adding in. After this, you can see there is no fresh selling which is being added, and we already saw a swing low here, we saw a buying tail here, and this green block is reconfirming. Once you have structure is telling you that you have a probable swing low in place and you have left a buying tail in the market profile chart, then you are getting this MFLOW signal that greens are adding, and you don't have one single red block. Yes, the green may be smaller in volumes, but because there is no supply adding, this buyer is being able to drive this up higher. So this is how it is. And if you have a clear cut view of what the 30-minute chart is showing, you will be easily able to decode the shorter time frame and use the signals on the shorter time frame to align yourself with the 30-minute bias. So these are the indicators which you can use even in the options. 30-minute options also, they'll be a pretty handy tool. And tomorrow being the settlement, we will have to be actually very ready to use this MFLOW in the options chart also. So I'll have a quick look at the spectrum chart and the volume X today before we move on to gamma exposure and gamma density to talk about what are the levels we need to look out for tomorrow. So any queries about MFLOW, we have a post which is updated in the must read section. We also have a main post on MFLOW which will be updated end of the day today. We call that the pillar. So you can go through these two posts on the website. They will have answers to all your queries. But if you still have any queries, you can still get in touch with us. You can mail us at Vtrender, support@vtrender.com, or you can even WhatsApp me on my number or DM me on X. Uttam Goyal is my ID. So coming back to the volume X and the spectrum, you can see the higher open got the gamma 0 up from 26,000 to 26,100. And now for tomorrow, the gamma 0 is at 26,100 and we have the upper reference at 26,300 in the spectrum, and the support is at 26,100 again. Why? Because we have a initiative buying tail in spot right at that level. So 26,100 spot will be a important reference for tomorrow's settlement as per the spectrum also. And coming to the volume X, you can see how the call volume X was above, and it all day it remained above it. We were getting small spikes on the upside, and almost all day it was, we had that 45-degree angle. But as we already saw, we did not get any range extension on the initial balance high. So we remained bullish and above VWAP most part of the day, but above the IBH, we could not make a good range extension. So coming to the gamma exposure, what do we have? We have the gamma density on the left and the gamma exposure on the right. So what we were seeing in gamma exposure was a single peak forming at 26,100, which was in sync with the gamma 0 level. But late into the day, after mid-afternoon, we started to, that single peak gave way to two peaks. We did have long gamma at 26,200 throughout the day, but this peak kept rising. And this peak, which was almost above 1.15 in mid part of the day, came down to 45, the ratio. So the ratio between these two is very small. They're almost at similar heights. So that is the reason we have 26,100 as the lower reference and 26,200 as the upper reference. And you can see we have in between level also at 26,150, and that is where our gamma density is pointing. Both the density and convexity are pointing to 26,150. That is where we have closed. 26,172 is the close today, and 26,140 is, I think, today's POC in spot. So that will be our reference for tomorrow. And the sigma levels on the downside is at 26,000 and the upper reference is 26,200. So this is the immediate range, 200-point range for tomorrow. This will be the normal range for the settlement. And if we are getting a sigma move, then the lower tail comes to 25,850 and the upper tail is 26,350. So we will have to watch how this convexity and density shape up. If they continue to peak at 26,150, we can expect 26,150 to get pinned. And what we can see during the day tomorrow is this short gamma and long gamma both get merged into this 26150. We can see fresh writing coming in both 26150 call and put tomorrow, and the amount of volumes which come in that strike will decide whether we are getting a pin or we continue to see movements both sides. So this is about tomorrow's settlement. And the gamma exposure, if we have a quick look at how we started. Yeah, I'll open up how to watch the MFLOW. We have a query about how to plot MFLOW. MFLOW is already there in the smart candlestick chart. I'll just show how you can activate it in case it is not activated on your chart. So coming to this gamma exposure chart, you can see how we had the gamma 0 at 26,000 and we were slightly long gamma over there. But because of the open today, the higher open, that had to change. And you can see how immediately the gamma 0 shifted to 26,100. And here, most part of the day, as I mentioned, the gamma exposure was getting bigger and bigger at 26100. You can see this 120 level. But then later in the day, we started to see another peak getting formed. And that is why you can see how slowly it started to come down. 130 was the peak here. And then in the afternoon, we start this getting building and this coming down. And that is the reason now, in fact, in between, we had the long gamma at 26,200 higher than the 26,100 short gamma. But into the close, the short gamma is slightly bigger. So we will have to see how this changes in live market tomorrow based on the tick data which we get from NSE, and accordingly form a bias about if 26,150 will be a pinned level or whether we are able to move away from 26,200 on the upside to be more bullish towards 26,350, or on the downside below 26,100, 26,000 would be our reference. So coming to the how to plot the MFLOW chart. In the menu, if you go to the smart candlesticks, it will give you these panels at the bottom. So these panels you can change. You have these panel controls, and using this you can either hide one of the panels, and you have the choice of selecting the volume, COT, DOI or MFLOW. So what I'll do, I'll only have the MFLOW in one panel and I'll hide the lower panel for now. So you select this and immediately you will get the benefit. So if you don't have MFLOW already there on your smart candlestick chart, and MFLOW is available only on this smart candlestick chart, so you can go with the time frame and you will have to again change the setting. And here you have the MFLOW indicator. So it is in the panel controls. It is a very simple thing to add, and you can select the two panels which you want. You can even, in case you want to decrease the height, you can even do that using this settings. So that is it from my side for today, guys. Tomorrow being the settlement, it could be an interesting one. Let us see if we get a pinned confirmation or whether we get a move away from the zone which we have spoken about today. So make sure you are using the MFLOW in the setup tomorrow, and it'll definitely add into the clarity which we have. It'll tell you when you need to enter because of fresh volumes, and it'll also tell you when the move is happening because of old business. So that is it from my side. Thank you guys for joining in, and please feel free to get in touch for any queries. We already have shared the contact details, and let's have a great settlement tomorrow. Signing off for now and have a great evening.